Howdy do, y'all. My name is Luke Gilligan, or Wool Enthusiast on Instagram, and I have decided to start a YouTube channel. And I know, if you know me or have ever talked to me, you're probably asking yourself, Luke, honey, why have you started a YouTube channel? And my answer to that is basically I'm solidifying my insanity because I'm choosing to talk to a camera for the fun of it on a Thursday night because there's really nothing else to do right now. And you know what? I'm okay with it. But for the real reals, I'm starting a YouTube channel because if you don't know me, I am a knitter, designer, blogger, tech editor, wool enthusiast extraordinaire, and on Instagram. And I've been really enjoying it. I've been loving being able to use that space and my platform as a way to just show my growth personally as a knitter, but also inspire others to knit as well. And I've been liking the feedback and just the friends I've been meeting because I've it's a community and I love it. And I'm really starting a YouTube channel because as I post more, I've been getting a lot more questions and emails and DMs just asking me about products I use or just a lot of frequently asked questions like how I became a tech editor. And these questions are really good. Some of them are fun, some of them are interesting, some of them like make me laugh out loud, but a lot of them are repetitive. So I thought the best way to answer these questions would be a YouTube channel where my craziness could be put on the internet forever. But yeah, and so I just started decided that I'd just start answering these questions one by one on through YouTube videos and just put them on my platform so that when I get asked them I can just link to a video and you guys can get a more thorough, personable response. So, I decided that for my first video, I would answer the most frequently asked question, which is how do I become a tech editor? Or most likely, Luke, can you teach me to become a tech editor? And I will unpack that here, but I kind of have to start with my fiber journey to be able, story, journey, testimony, whatever, to answer that question. And so, oh dear Lord, little Luke about fell. Okay, but as you might know, I'm a young 18-year-old dude living in Fishers, Indiana, and I have always been a knitter slash creative, like throughout my whole life. And when I was really young, so like around 6, I started knitting. And the reason I chose to start knitting was because basically the docs said that Luke, you need to take medicine for ADHD or take up a craft. And I chose a craft because my little hands couldn't like stop moving. I was jumping off walls, and I thought that knitting and my parents more likely thought that knitting would be a great way to keep my hands busy and me contained in a room. So I just remember one day during the summer, my grandma was knitting, and I was like, "Yo, teach me how to knit." And so we grabbed chopsticks and some yarn hanging around the house, and I learned how to cast on and do the knit stitch. Now that's all I learned, nothing else. And so I remember knitting like the funnest little scarf thing that ended up looking like a huge V. I don't know what it was, but I loved it. And I remember finishing it on Super Bowl night, which I was like, that's a little fun little memory. But yeah, and so that's how I started to knit and why I started to knit. And basically, since then, I have never put it down because I just remember as a little kid, I never did like the football jock type stuff. One, just because why do you want to choose to hurt yourself? And two, I could be playing with yarn, something soft, and be making something instead of like getting my head bashed in. But yeah, and so I just remember that I was always sitting in the office on the ground, and I found out YouTube, and I found Very Pink Knits, and since then I have been hooked on knitting because when I started to learn how to knit, I'd learn one technique and then I'd be working on it and then like knitting my fun little hat or whatever. And then as I was doing that, I was watching a video on another technique or another pattern. And for that's basically how I quickly started to learn knitting because the next after I finished one project, I'd cast on another using a technique I just watched about. And I just basically every other project that I was doing, I was just adding more and more techniques. And then finally, I watched all of Very Pink Knits videos, and so I had to find a new channel as I did, and I found Margaret Olanger of Sheeplessly Sharing and Jen Likes Yarn, which are two yarn podcasts and or knitting podcasts, and I basically then found patterns in Ravelry, and then my whole world was opened up, my eyes were wide open, and I was like enlightened, and I was hooked and I was addicted. And so I started to learn how to read patterns and I started to learn how to knit like more advanced things. But I soon started to realize that the creative space, well, basically, I started to design and patterns before I ever learned how to knit, like read knitting patterns, because I never knew what a pattern was until like 3 years into my knitting. And so as I started to actually follow real knitting patterns, I would start to find errors in them. And I would message me being like 6-year-old Luke DMing a designer on Instagram thinking it was funny, or a Ravelry, and then I'd be like, yo, is this an error? And then they would usually respond yes, and then explain why, and I was starting to learn a lot from that. And then finally one designer asked me if I'd like to check all of her patterns, and I was like, yo, this is a cool thing and I'd love to. And so I started to do that, and then I started to get a name for that. And until like 2 years ago that I realized what this was, and it was tech editing. And once I did that, I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather do this and get paid for it. And I on winter break one year just decided to take a Jolie Kelly tech editing class. And with that, it basically solidified everything that I knew, because it didn't really teach me anything new per se. It just confirmed that I was doing what I was doing and it was right. And so what I did take out of that class, well, was because the business side of it, and learning how to run a business as a teenager, but also how to run a tech editing business and the invoices and reaching out to designers, getting clients. And that was the most beneficial part of how I became a tech editor in my knitting journey. So after that, basically, I just started to get designers and clients, and then I started to get more names for myself. And I was really proud of myself. Well, Luke, that's no, I'm not. I'm being narcissistic, but no, I was proud of myself because in the beginning, I instead of taking money for it to edit, I would ask for a testimonial, and then I would put those on my website, and then I'd put that on Ravelry and learning about Ravelry ads, and I started to gain a client base from that. So as I did that and as I did it more, I started to get more and more designers, and then I started getting reached out to by bigger name designers, and that's basically how my full-time tech editing career became. And so that's really the end of my fiber journey. But to answer the question more fully, because I kind of touched on it, is how do you become a tech editor? And so there's like a few different ways, but really for everyone it's different. So if you want to take a class and get a certified tech editors, there's two ways to do it, which is the Knitting Guild or Jolie Kelly's tech editing course, which is what I did. And you can take that. It costs like a certain amount per month, and then you just basically it's just a bunch of homework. So you take a pattern, you learn how to edit it, and then you send it back, make sure it's right, and then back and forth, and then you're done. And that's what I did, and that's a great way of starting. But how I would say to become a tech editor is find your niche. Figure out what you do best and what you love to do, and then run with that. So when people ask me how did I become a tech editor, it's very much of a personal story. It's just like how did you learn how to knit? It's different for everyone. And there's not really a textbook answer to that question. But if you are learning and wanting to become a tech editor or interested in it, take one of the certification classes, but realize that you'll learn the most from just doing it hands on. So do what I did and reach out to designers, say, hey, I will do a edit for you for free. I won't cost you anything. Just I want to learn and I want to like increase my skill level. Would you just write me a testimony if you like my work? And so you'll start to really learn what tech editing is, what you're good at, and the different parts of the knitting community that you'd be the best at and as an editor. And so what I mean by that is there's garments, there's accessories, there's socks, there's shawls, there's all types of patterns. I personally specialize in sweaters, but you might like socks or shawls better because that's what you knit. And so as you become a tech editor or you're interested in it, focus on those type of patterns. Reach out to those types of designers to say, hey, I'd love to practice my skills. Would you let me tech edit your pattern? And 90% of the time they'll say yes, because who doesn't want to turn down free work or like something for free? and it benefits you, it benefits them, symbiosis. And honestly, that's the best way to learn. And let me tell you, I am still learning to this day. I've been a full-time tech editor for a year now, and I work on patterns every single week, and I learn something new every single week. And it's amazing. I have learned so much more about myself, how to work, how to be professional as a tech editor than I ever did in my whole high school career. And that's what I really like about it, is the knitting community is very forgiving, and it's we're here to work with each other and build each other up. And so if you're wanting to become a tech editor, a lot of designers will back that up, because we need more tech editors and we need more good ones. And so to answer your question, basically, I don't want to be talking in circles, but take a certification class if you want to, but just learn how to become a tech editor, learn about garments, learning about math, and making sure patterns are correct, there's consistency, you'll learn what to look out for, and that's what you'll learn in a certification class. But how you become a good one is just learning by experience. And so taking what you learn from those certification classes and applying that to new designs, tons of designs, all different types of designs, and you'll start to figure out yourself personally, your niche, and then start to market yourself and just sell your business, sell your services, and you will do well in the knitting community, because there's always a need for a tech editor. That's the one amazing thing, is with indie design patterns, and you can self-publish now with Ravelry, there's you'll always find a designer that needs a tech editor. So if you're interested and if you want to learn more, I will link the classes that I took, which is Jolie Kelly, in the description box below. I think it's on my Instagram, but I'll also put it on my website, which is woolenthusiast.com, and just a link of the resources that I use to become a tech editor, the things I use every day now, books that I read, softwares that I use, and just to be able to set you up well for success when you're trying to become one, or if you already are one but wanting to better yourself. So I hope that this helped. If you ever have any questions about anything related to my fiber journey, that's why I have this channel now. And so ask away, ask me anything. I love to start doing product reviews of things that I love. I have a few planned out videos, but if you have a random question, I'd love to do a Q&A video. So comment down below, DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is @woolenthusiast. And I just love to hear your feedback and hear about you, because I am a crazy little kid from Fishers, Indiana, that is knitting and just loving the knitting space. And so I'd love to help inspire others to do the same. So I hope you guys are having a swell little day and enjoy yourself. The reason I do this is to inspire you to knit. So keep knitting, happy making, and I hope that I can become more comfortable with YouTube and this space and enjoy it, so that it'll be more fun for all of us. And yeah, so have a great day, y'all.